Welcome to Keeping VR Human. Please welcome your speaker, Caitlyn Meeks.
Hi there. Oh, I wasn't expecting that voiceover announcement. Yeah, I'm Caitlyn Meeks. I'm Director of Content at High Fidelity. We are creating a virtual worlds platform from the ground up to facilitate multi-user, low-latency social virtual reality. Before High Fidelity, I was at Unity, where I helped create the asset store. After about 8 years, I decided that I really wanted to work on VR that people could experience together, because I feel that humans are the best content. So this is a little presentation I've given about what we're doing and why I think our platform is well-suited for people and for humanity, and where I hope that we can all head together into the future of VR. So first of all, I just wanted to talk about how fortunate we all really are. Because we get to be the ones who are going to define the grammar and language of a whole new medium. We're in a very special place right now. If we go back to look at some of the new media of the last century, we see the emergence of photography, cinema, electronic music, computer animation, and at first, these media were really celebrated more for their novelty. People would go to the movies just to see some people moving, to see heads moving around, and that was sufficient. Back in the London Underground, in the Victorian times when they first launched it, the subway had the first light bulbs, and people would go and take the train just to see the light bulbs. They just wanted the novelty. It wasn't until some time kind of set in and that creative people and intellectuals really began to look at the media and what it's capable of that a grammar emerged. The Great Train Robbery here in 1903 by Edison Films, Edwin Porter. Some people say this was like the first film to really introduce the beginnings of modern cinema with editing techniques, composition, cinematic photography, and sequencing. Sergei Eisenstein, I like his hair, so that's why I included this picture. He introduced montage editing in Battleship Potemkin, and you see his techniques today. We're in the same position to be, the Eisenstein or, the Leni Riefenstahl or, one of these people to create this new language. Let's see. So we've seen virtual reality depicted. Oh, it's kind of dark. We've seen VR depicted in the media, in the popular media, in fiction, in cinema, and the news to the degree that some of us actually feel like it's already happened. Ready Player One and Snow Crash, in these virtual worlds, in these fictional virtual worlds, virtual reality is presented as kind of a male domain, a masculine world where, you have elite hacking wizards who are kind of battling with each other, courting the ladies, and there's hard edges, and there's cyber weapons, and there's megalomaniacal antagonist technological overlords like the bad guy from Hackers. And usually the world's in some dystopia, and the solitary hacker goes in there, and that's where he's really powerful, and that's where he saves the day, and he's a code ninja, and humanity, meanwhile, sits in dystopia. And the truth is that that's not real. That is all make-believe. It's true, I know. Duh. Oh, by the way, here's Angela Lansbury. Oh, it's so dark. In Murder, She Wrote, Season 10, Episode 5, A Virtual Murder from 1993. You've got to see this episode. It's got VR, it's got Angela Lansbury, and it's got that 1990s sort of flavor to it that just makes it impeccable. So the incredible truth is that this is our time, and we get to be the ones to write these stories. Ready Player One's a great book, but we get to write the book now. And we have the chance to really look to see like what the future is going to be, like what we're going to make it. As I see it, this is an opportunity for us to treat VR with the respect it deserves, and the responsibility that we have as storytellers, as programmers, as artists, and that obligation, I think, is innately human, and that's to make deep, beautiful, and profound virtual reality experiences for people to experience and share together. What does that mean? Well, it means to make places that feel alive, or places where people themselves feel alive when they're visiting, places that make people feel positive and engaged, and experiences that improve reality outside of VR. And to do this, we need to ask ourselves questions about the nature of the medium, questions that philosophers and media theorists and poets and thinkers have been asking themselves for millennia, about what it means to be human, about art, about meaning and semantics, some profound philosophical questions. And this is a good example by Albert Korzybski. That's a hard one to pronounce for me. A map is not the territory it represents. And, this is a truth that a lot of people look at. A lot of philosophers have thought about this. But for someone who is immersed in virtual reality, is this true? With deep immersion and VR, the line between the signifier and the signified, between the symbol and the physical object, gets totally blurred in a way that's completely unique. And this blurriness, I think, is where our opportunity stands, where we can make history. We can become a new kind of storyteller or educator or poet. So the 21st century's first wave of VR, this content is largely going to be games. It's going to be stuff that's very flashy. You're going to see a lot of game mechanics that are existing revisited with kind of a layer of virtual reality on top. Some of these are going to be great. Some of them are terrific fun. Some are kind of mediocre. But the one thing that these have in common is that they're staged and they're limited in scope. Staged media, like games, they can be awfully good fun, but they're tightly bound and controlled worlds. And really, by necessity, game designers have to define the rules and the constraints that define the terms of play. So games are bound by rules, but people are not. And the human spirit is something that's profoundly slippery and playful and shining. And we enjoy games. We certainly enjoy games, but really we dwell in something far deeper. We dance, we appreciate beauty, we argue and love and share and create and pretend. We tell stories. We get surprised and delighted and embarrassed and frightened. We get introspective and we deceive ourselves. We do all of these things. And if we want to be human in virtual reality, we need virtual reality to have the space and scope to allow us to unfold, to be ourselves. So ideally, the virtual worlds where we can be human aren't, for the super elite hackers with code names. They're going to be places that lift the numerous constraints of reality, of the physical world, like distance, constraints of visual perception, scale, economic constraints. And we at at High Fidelity, we're making our platform for just this purpose. Instead of adding VR, like a VR layer to a game engine, we're creating something that is extensible, distributed, completely open source to have multi-user shared VR experiences. So we're not just taking a lovely game engine like Unity or Unreal and adding multi-user functionality to it. Instead, we're creating something from scratch that at its very core is designed to accommodate many people, the subtleties of their spoken and body language with almost no latency, and we're doing it from the ground up. We were started by Philip Rosedale, who created Second Life, and he wanted to kind of take that original vision that he had for Second Life and create something that was a much broader, open, and sort of learning from the things that didn't quite go the way he wanted. And so we're all here together kind of supporting this vision. The system is designed to accommodate any number of people in a distributed and decentralized universe of domains. And with it, like if you have an HMD and hand controllers, you can make eye contact with one another, you can kind of touch, you can share things and objects and experiences, you can create your own worlds, and you can talk and whisper and joke and explore and be people together. How are we doing it? Well, here's some spaghetti. But I don't want to get too technical. But what we're doing is we've got a design that is focused on giving users agency and ownership. First comes human interaction. So in our overall architecture, we've developed from the start components that facilitate spoken and bodily language. To this extent, we've created what we call the avatar mixer, which is kind of a distributed client that is part of a domain that exclusively focuses on collecting, streaming, and computing avatar movement. And it enables people to do very subtle motions. We're creating the system to be completely open source under the Apache 2 license. We feel that you should have ownership of your virtual reality. We don't want to be like, one day we go out of business or something goes down and you lose your work. And in many virtual worlds that are operated as services, the majority of them, your creativity and your output and your hard work is dependent on the stability of these companies. With High Fidelity, we're distributed, we're kind of peer-to-peer, a little bit like BitTorrent. You are the one who's accountable for supporting and hosting your content. It's extensible. High Fidelity is extensible in numerous ways, aside from being open source. While you can access the source code and add functionality you want, like drivers for new hardware and things like that, we also have a JavaScript layer, so you can script things in a lighter and faster way. And it's entirely user-generated content. So we're not here to provide you a canned 3D chat room or an experience like a game or something. It's all created by you. You have, as the architect of your own virtual world, you have the ability to model and create and script the content with Maya, JavaScript, and manipulate it in-world while other people are there with you. And you have controls over who can access what and how they can access it. There isn't a central governance. It's decentralized. So there's no one company to say, hey, you can't do this or you can't do that. And we have this client-server duality, which is really cool. And what that means is you don't need to depend on AWS or some other cloud service provider to host and run your virtual world. If you were a large company and you wanted to have a very, very large virtual world with lots of bandwidth, many users, and that kind of thing, you could, of course, instantiate your virtual world on AWS or on your own metal. But if you don't want to, you can opt to just run off of your own hardware and using our own kind of peer-served asset server system. And it's not like a lot of engines where there's this kind of build and deploy functionality. High Fidelity is just always there. It's always running. You never work on something and then say, okay, I want to publish this. Instead, your world is a running system that you can step into and bring in your work. And then you can opt to turn it on and open it up to other people if you want. The great thing about this is the social functionality and the networking and the voice and the subtle bodily movement, it's all built into it. You don't have to worry about this. Like if you wanted to make something like this with Unity, to be honest, you'd have to to do a lot of network work. You'd have to, use Photon or Unity networking. You would have to, connect the drivers and the data from, your various HMD input devices and figure out how to coordinate all of that and stream that all in, and then some kind of world management system. It's as lovely a tool as modern game engines are, they're really not capable of doing this particular thing. So it's so easy. With High Fidelity, you'll be able to just start building stuff, and people can come in and share it with you. So reality is wide open, and VR needs to be just as open. If you can't change and impress yourself on the fabric of reality, then it's not really much of a reality. So, yeah, I'm fond of this Taoist anecdote. There's a Chinese muralist named Wu Douzai, and he was hired by the Tang Dynasty Emperor Zhanzong to paint a mural on his palace wall. And he painted this verdant scene in a kind of a green valley with mountains, and at the base of the mountains, he painted a cave, and there were deer and birds, and kind of a temple gate at the cave. And at the unveiling, they pulled the curtain to show the mural, and it was just as beautiful as everyone thought it would be, and everyone was in awe of it. And Wu Douzai stepped up and walked into the painting and then just lived there in beauty. To a degree, I think that's the opportunity that we have. So thank you. I'm Caitlyn, and here's Angela Lansbury again for you. Season 10, Episode 5, A Virtual Murder. You've got to see it. I wanted to show a video clip of us in High Fidelity interacting together. Unfortunately, I didn't have the network connectivity here to show it. So I would encourage you to look for High Fidelity on YouTube. Perhaps look for our whiteboard demo, and you can see a couple of people in VR together interacting and drawing on the whiteboard. Do you guys have any questions or comments? Yeah.
When is this available?
Sorry?
When is High Fidelity launch? Ooh.
When is it available?
Yeah.
So we had a very kind of quiet launch into beta in March. Because High Fidelity is largely most useful to Vive users and users with like Oculus and hopefully Touch, if that appears. We'll probably have our first proper like 1.0 release where we are, inviting the general public beyond the smaller kind of virtual world domain at the end of the year. So, but you can actually go to highfidelity.com right now and download it. And if you've got a Vive, you really ought to try it. It's really, really trippy. There's still some rough edges, and it's not perfect. And this is because we've been investing a lot of our attention into designing this underlying distributed architecture that makes High Fidelity so special and unique. And a lot of that stuff is going to come very easily and quickly. So you'll find more polished experiences as you come along.
But the beta is available for the Vive right now?
It's available right now.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And it's not on Steam. Just go to highfidelity.com and install it. It will be on Steam, though.
Are you looking for user feedback at this stage?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely, we are. So
very cool. Thanks.
Please come. Yeah.
The Vive or also the Rift?
Vive, Rift, even the Razer, the new Razer OSVR system. We're kind of hardware agnostic. We already support the Leap Motion, the Percept Neuron suit. And because of the open source nature of the platform, it's possible for anyone to go and integrate any kind of system into High Fidelity. Other questions? Yeah.
Hello. I always feel in the back of my mind that if virtual reality truly becomes and evolves into what we want it to be, is there any concern that it will become a replacement for reality?
I'm sorry, could you say that a little louder, please? I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was wondering, as virtual reality technology continues and goes to places where we want it to go, is there any concern that it becomes a replacement for reality?
Oh, well, I mean, sure. And, this is something that, this is a question for sociologists and for psychologists and for all kinds of people. Yeah, I mean, that is a legitimate question. And, and it's very profound. I think the best person to ask would be Aristotle. But I don't know where to find him. So yeah, I mean, whether or not that's good or bad is another question. I would like to look towards what virtual reality can empower people to do that we can't currently do. And I think, in some sense that could help us become our ideal selves, or let us transcend some of the things that are in our way, some of our barriers. So my hope is that VR does not become an escape, from reality, and this is how it's often depicted in science fiction. My hope is that it becomes a supplement, and that it becomes another space where we are just as human. Yeah.
What personally stimulated you to create High Fidelity, and what do you think is the highest and best use of this platform that you created?
Oh,
and
wow.
what is the next step for you? Like, who do you need to connect with, you know what I mean, to take what you're doing, which is revolutionary, to the next level?
Oh, that's a good question. Like in terms of what motivated me to do this, I've always just felt like reality could be a lot more than it is. I see a lot of constraints. I see a lot of beautiful people who are cornered, backed into a corner by things that are outside of their control, be it biological, be it social, be it economic. There's people who don't have a fair shake. There's people who are entitled and have access to a lot of things. And I think, being human is such a special thing. It's such a special opportunity to do something beautiful in life that we need to give humans this tool set, or this extra dimension, so that we can be even more. So that's what I see in it as being important. Yeah, what was your other question?
What do you think is going to be the highest and best use
Oh.
of the platform that you created?
Just being people. I mean, that's the thing. That's like saying, what is the highest and best use of reality? This is just another place where we get to be human. And this is a place where we get to be more like ourselves than maybe, our bodies or our circumstances allow us to feel, I mean, in many ways, you can look at reality as like having put a lot of constraints on you, on a person, to the point where you could say it's deterministic, where you could say, this is your life, you're a jock, or or you're this person or that person, you're impoverished, or you're never going to get out of here, or you can never go to a good college. And by removing those constraints, I think that's going to be the ultimate use. We're going to, of course, see VR used in education, entertainment. We're going to see it in, furry sex dungeons. We're going to see it everywhere. Oh, come on, it's true, right? We all know about it. We're going to see retailers. We're going to see theme parks. We're going to see the whole gamut that we see, on the web right now. Except we're going to be able to walk into it and touch it, Yeah. Yeah.
I heard it was related to Second Life.
Yeah. Well, okay. Linden Lab created Second Life, and our founder is Philip Rosedale. He was the CEO and founder of Linden Lab. So he was the original guy behind Second Life with a small, scrappy team in San Francisco. He left Linden Lab in 2009. He made his fortune, very successful, and Second Life continues today to be a very profitable company. Linden Lab is working on a new VR platform of their own. But Philip, who started Linden Lab, launched High Fidelity as his own new kind of baby. And in doing so, he kind of looked at all the things that he had kind of wished had gone differently, or looked at all the things that went bumpy, and the ways that things didn't quite go the way that he wanted. And one of the beautiful things about High Fidelity is we are being launched and started by this person who knows all about this. You know, he's an expert. He knows everything about creating a shared multi-user virtual world. And numerous people on our team also come from that domain. So, so we're well-versed and well-experienced. Yeah. I've only got about 30 seconds, by the way.
Okay, I'll be quick.
Yeah.
In looking at the transition, maybe this isn't quick, looking at the transition between two-dimensional interactivity and three-dimensional interactivity, what are you referencing for, or what do you recommend to, for developers to learn off of or to reference in learning?
You know, their imaginations, you know, I think you needn't necessarily look at two-dimensional content and say, how can I project this into 3 dimensions? I think you just need to look at the world around you, you know, and find those things. You know, we're expecting people to do a lot of photogrammetry and create worlds simply using their camera from objects around them. But yeah, I mean, you know, art direction from 2D is certainly a great place to, you know, to think about. There's illustrations that, you know, and visual worlds that can be fantastic inspiration. I've got to go, but thank you very much. It's been nice talking to you. Thanks.